who were born with a rare metabolic disease and only lived for 6 months each. Everything changed when detectives showed off new surveillance footage from Nancy Guthrie's home. The night she vanished was linked to music for the first time on a clear timeline. People were already scared by the pictures, but what happened next made them even more scared. There's finally music from New York's daughter, and she broke her silence at the worst possible time. What she said is leading to new ideas, strong feelings, and more stress in the case. As the story goes on, there is one question that keeps coming up. Why do you need to speak up now? What does she know? Grief made family ties that can't be broken. Most people think Savannah's story starts in a certain place, but it doesn't. She lives with her parents, Nancy and Charles Guthrie, in Australia, which is on the other side of the world. Charles is a mine engineer. She was born there in 1971, a long way from the plains she would later live in. The family eventually moved back to the United States and lived in Arizona. This is where Savannah really grew up music, and where she started to figure out who she was. In 1988, that sense of security was broken. Charles had a heart attack and died quickly. He was the emotional center of the family. When Savannah was 16, her whole world changed in an instant. She was still trying to figure out who she was. His death did more than just leave a hole in the family. The family's life fell out of sync in a way that could never be fully fixed. Years later, Savannah would have very clear memories of her father. She talked about him as a man of contrasts, music someone who could be strong and even scary, like a very protective father, but also very kind and loyal when it meant most. He was good at telling stories. Someone who could turn even the most boring task into an unforgettable journey. Charles set a standard for his kids every day. He was tall, funny, and had a strong sense of right and wrong. It was sometimes scary and sometimes uplifting, but it changed Savannah in a way that would last. Savannah, the youngest of 3 children, made a decision that showed what was most important to her after her father died. She went to the University of Arizona, which is close to home, for college. Annie, her sister, did the same thing with music, and the two of them made a quiet, unsaid deal during those years. It didn't matter how busy they were, one of them would always be home on the weekends to keep their mom company. It was never made official or stated, they both knew it was true. It also showed how close the family was to each other after losing someone. Savannah thought about Australia more than she actually went there for many years. She didn't come back until 2015, when she took her mother with her. A childhood dream came true on the trip, but it wasn't just about nostalgia. Savannah found it very moving to see Nancy music walk through places that reminded her of her life with Charles. Seeing her mother connect with that part of her life made her feel better, like an emotional circle that had been open but never closed had been closed. Savannah has always been clear about where she thinks she belongs, even though she has a connection to Australia. She thinks of herself as a daughter of the desert because Arizona's heat, openness, and personality have shaped her. In TV appearances, she has often gone back to Tucson with her mother, where they would sit down at familiar local spots music, and talk about the place where she grew up. There is more going on than just going on those scenes. They give us small glimpses into a relationship that Savannah clearly values. It's always clear that she loves and respects her mother. While NY's 81st birthday was being celebrated, Savannah talked about how honest and true she was. Someone who quietly lived her beliefs every day. But that strength in the song didn't just happen. It was made during the worst time in their lives. Savannah has been very open about how the sudden death of her father changed her life. Nancy chose to put her children first, even though she was very sad, putting aside her own pain to make sure they felt safe and cared for. She became a mom at the same time and led her family with stability and determination. Following that, Nancy raised her children by herself only. Savannah has never been afraid to give her mom all the praise. After that, she says, every win, every step forward, and everything good began with her mother's fierce never-give-up love. Nancy gave her children everything she had, she made sacrifices without complaining, and she kept a quiet confidence through it all. This became the foundation of their lives. Savannah doesn't think that any of their success is random or by chance. There is a straight line between this and the fact that the mom refused to let grief and loss write the ending of their story. But just when things looked like they might be getting better, life dealt them both another devastating blow. A calm desert home turns into a nightmare. Nancy Guthrie had always said nice things about living in Tucson, which is a music city. Said it was wonderful and that the place's slow pace and gentle beat made it stand out. She even made jokes about the animals in the area, like how she liked seeing javalos eat her plants as they walked through the yard. For people who have never been to the Southwest, javalos are those pig-like animals that make desert neighborhoods feel both strange and normal. She lived in the Catalina Hills area, which was close to the Santa Catalina Mountains. People go there for more than just hiking paths and quiet nights. They know the area for its bike rides, hiking trails, and quiet evenings. The Puma County Sheriff's Department says the area is known for outdoor activities, not for serious crime or kidnappings. The difference between the two is part of what makes this case so troubling. The neighborhood's mood changed almost overnight, and a heavy feeling took its place that no one saw coming. NY's family last saw her on Saturday, January 31st, in the evening. That night did not set off any bells. She had dinner and a family game night at her daughter Annie's house near Tucson. A normal kind of get-together where people talk and laugh about normal things. Nancy took an Uber to Annie's house at 5:32 p.m. Later, investigators confirmed that the Uber driver had been cleared and had helped them a lot, even giving them video from a dashcam that showed Nancy in the car. After a few hours with her family, they drove her back home and dropped her off around 9:45 p.m. Nancy lived in the mountains of Catalina, far away from everyone else. There, homes are tucked away behind saguaro cacti and winding roads. Sheriff Chris Nanos says that detectives know exactly what time she got home. Her garage door opened at 9:48 p.m. It closed at 9:50 p.m., 2 minutes after that. At that point, both her family and the police thought she was inside, safe and sound, getting ready for the night. The biggest mystery in music is still what happened after that. Around the early hours of Sunday morning, small but worrying signs started to show up. At 1:47 a.m., New York's home camera was turned off. Sheriff Nanos said that the camera had been taken away, but he didn't say that it was broken or destroyed. At 2:12 a.m., about 25 minutes later, security software picked up on movement. That ought to have been a big step forward. It turned out to be another dead end. The camera has never been found again, and the software music couldn't save any video because there wasn't a subscription to store recordings. What was caught in those times is no longer there. Technology both helped and hurt the case as agents tried to put together the timeline. At first, the sheriff's office said that a security camera might have caught someone, but later, they explained what they meant. The action could have been an animal, and there was no way to be sure. The most scary piece of information came from a place you might not have expected, NY's pacemaker. The Sheriff Nanos says that the pacemaker app stopped working on her phone at exactly 2:28 a.m. It wasn't used when her cell phone was later found inside the house. Analysts think this may show the exact moment when she was taken away from the phone so that the link broke. There was also some confusion about how Nancy was first reported missing. According to early reports, music. She wasn't at a church meeting in person on Sunday morning, but that turned out to be false. A family friend said that Nancy changed her practice during the pandemic and never went back to going to church in person. Instead, she did something every year with a small group of friends. They switched homes every Sunday and watched a live-streamed service together. In a strange way, the service they usually watched music was in New York, and it was the same one that her daughter Savannah, who is a co-anchor on the Today Show, went to. Nancy never missed these music events. It was Sunday morning, and she wasn't there. Her friends knew right away that something was wrong. They called Annie to see how she was doing, and that call started everything. At 11:56 a.m., NY's family went to her house and saw that she wasn't there. After 7 minutes, at 12:03 p.m., the family called 911. At 12:15 p.m., officers from the Puma County Sheriff's Office were already there. All of this was happening at a very important time in Savannah Guthrie's career. The next day, she was going to fly to Italy to be in charge of NBC's coverage of the 2026 Winter Olympics. She spent the weekend with her husband and kids because she knew she would be leaving soon. With one phone call, that normalcy fell apart. Someone in her family told her that her mother was lost. Savannah's friends and family later said it was the worst phone call she had ever had. Right away, she started making plans to fly to Tucson to be with her family. By Sunday afternoon, police knew this wasn't a normal case of a lost person. Sheriff Nanos got a text message about NY's house, and it quickly set off alarm bells. He later said that the statement scared him so much that he didn't want to say it again in public. He went with his gut and called police, search and rescue teams, and homicide officers. As the probe went on, deputies. There was blood on the front door, which was the first physical proof. Later, tests proved that it belonged to Nancy, though the amount was called minimal. More things from the house were sent to the lab to be analyzed, and the police stressed that they were still actively looking for new leads instead of just waiting for the results. Soon after, there was a lot of talk online, mostly about whether the house had been broken into. Sheriff Nanos wouldn't say anything about that. He didn't say yes or no, and he said he wasn't sure where the reports came from. He said the department had always done the same thing from the start. They wouldn't say if there was forced entry or not. Hoax texts make the mystery even deeper. The case was over by the third day of the search. Things had taken another strange and confusing turn. A lot of ransom notes showed up. They weren't sent directly to the family, but to news sources. There were at least 3 texts sent to national and local news outlets, such as TMZ and Tucson stations KOD and K-Gun. In exchange for Nancy Guthrie's safe return, each letter asked for millions of dollars in Bitcoin. But almost right away, questions came up. Federal detectives confirmed that the same message had been sent to more than one news source, which raised red flags. The FBI couldn't be sure if the notes were real or if they were a complicated hoax. Even worse, the Guthrie family had not gotten a single direct message from anyone saying they were holding Nancy, despite public calls for help. Even worse, investigators still didn't know for sure when the notes were sent for the first time, which added to the stress of an already shaky schedule. The first line of the message got people all over the country's attention. It said that Nancy was safe but scared. Besides that claim, the note gave the family no way to reply, no way to get in touch, and no clear way to move forward. It was like she had left the people who loved her the most hanging, waiting for someone who might not even exist to make a move. The authorities stayed alert. Investigators wouldn't say what was written in the notes, but they did say that the messages talked about 2 specific things: an Apple Watch and a floodlight. Besides that, there was no proof that the sender did have Nancy in their care. There were no new demands, and there was no proof of music life. The schedule made things even more tense. One form of the letter was said to have had 2 due dates, February 5th at 5 p.m. and February 9th at the same time. It's strange that officials didn't say what time zone those dates were based on, which adds to the confusion. Even though there were a lot of questions, the FBI made it clear that the threats were being taken very seriously. Investigators sent a strong message to anyone who was trying to use the situation to get attention or music.